Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Senor Nerd Podcast. I have here with me my Barian copies from another dimension, Ramon,
Hey, what's up?
and
Howdy, howdy.
Ro. Wait for your introduction, Ro. And
Oh, I'm
Ro.
sorry. Hi.
and, and we're here today to talk about the 2023 Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And this is a movie that I quite enjoyed a lot, and I can't wait to start talking about it. But before we even start, guys, there's a controversy that's been happening with this movie, and I kind of want to know where you guys fall on it. So apparently, a lot of people are upset because they didn't know this was a part one of two. So I kind of wanted to ask you guys, like, were you guys a little bit shocked by that, or were you guys aware about the being a part one or a second one before even sitting down in the movie theater?
Yeah, so for me, I was trying to take in all the feels because that's exactly how I felt. So someone spoiled it for me. Actually, that was the one thing that they spoiled about the movie ahead of time. I think it was just the very day before, and they were like, "Do you want to know anything about it?" I'm like, "No," and they're like, "Okay, well, they'll find out after the next one." I'm like, "Next one?" I'm like, "No." But you know what? The funny part is, I watched the whole movie, like all 2 hours and whatever, 20 minutes of it. And I totally forgot about that. I was so into the movie that by the time it hit, so it hit even harder in real life because then I had to relive that moment again of just kind of realizing that I have to wait longer time to watch the remainder of it. So lame.
Yeah, and yeah, I was actually pleasantly surprised by it. 'Cause I had no idea that was going to be part of like part one of two.
Yeah.
Spoilers, by the way, if people haven't figured it out. But yeah, like I didn't know that was going to be part of part one of two because I was just watching and like it felt like it was a long movie, and I was kind of surprised that my son was because I saw it with my son. I was surprised that he was like, still on there and like paying attention and super into it and all that stuff. And then and like the story was still going and like honestly I could have sat there for like another hour. But then they did the whole thing. I was like, oh, this makes so much sense.
Yeah, I guess a lot of people are just mad because the marketing really wasn't there to tell you there was a part one or a second one. I sort of knew from Twitter, so that was one of those instances where, like, way ahead before the release of the movie, I already knew this was part one of two. So I was just kind of enjoying the journey, and I knew it was gonna, like, I felt when the ending was coming, so I wasn't upset, but I could tell somebody like my wife was totally caught off guard. So that's where I wanted to see where you guys like stood with that.
Why?
Heartbroken.
It just means that more Spider-Man to come.
No,
But
it's a good
again,
thing.
well, one of those topics we have to wait, man. Why can't we just get? I would have been down for a 4 hour long movie.
Hell yeah.
Uh,
um,
uh, to have a Snyder cut of Across
Absolutely.
the
I mean, it's not
Spider-Verse.
meant for the general public, but hey, I love it. Let's go.
well, you know, this is normally the part where I kind of either pass it on to Raul or Ramon to tell us what they thought about the movie. But you know what, man? I'm not gonna do this time. I'm gonna do my own thing, and I'm gonna continue to talk about this movie just because Spider-Man has always been my favorite Marvel superhero since I was a little kid. The first time that I was able to pick up a pen, a marker, anything, I used to love drawing Spider-Man. And part of the reason why I love Spider-Man, man, it has to do a lot with the 90s cartoon. That 90s cartoon was so good, man. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up. It's on Disney Plus. Had layers upon layers upon layers of like storytelling, man. And I sort of like they're bringing back the X-Men from the 90s. I want them to do a continuation of that Spider-Man, introduce me to the Spot. And from what I remember, Mary Jane went into one of those holes that the Spot from like a spot that the machine created, and they never like we never found out what happened to her. So to this point, I want to know where the hell did Mary Jane end up in because I'm curious. Also, something that cartoon really did really good. It did the whole Secret War storyline, which you know we're gonna get an Avengers movie about that. And even before the Spider-Verse came out, like that movie established, like, hey, there's multiple Spider-Mans from different dimensions. And I think the last episode was it was an episode where like different Spider-Mans were all working together towards defeating like this Peter Parker that had fused with Carnage. So that was freaking incredible, man. That was my original Spider-Verse. And it was so freaking meta that one of the Spider-Mans was actually a Hollywood actor that got put in the like in that Spider-Man universe, and he had no powers. He was just like, hey, I'm just a regular guy that I play Spider-Man in like a live action cartoon. So it was so funny because at the end of the season, like the final episode was like, hey, I'll take you to my world and I'm gonna introduce you to the creator, which I think at that point like he met Stanley. So it was like so meta, dude. So you know that was my introduction to Spider-Man, and again, my favorite character. That's all I kind of really have to say about it. Turning off the mic, leaving the room, and I'm leaving the review for you guys to continue. 'Cause that's
All
all I
right,
gotta say
got
about
it.
it.
I love that show. They even did crossovers with Punisher and X-Men and other stuff.
Oh,
So
dude, it's so beautiful, dude. That's where the Secret Wars came in.
And you know what?
mhm.
What's funny is that it's absolutely true. I feel like because back then we didn't have movies like we have now, where they come out like every couple years, right? Spider-Man has been one of those that's been redone so many times, whether it be through Sony, Marvel, like everything. So it's like we didn't have that growing up. So I agree, Carlos. Like that show definitely had a huge impact on like most of us that are fans of this whole like genre in general to begin with. But then also like Spider-Man, because like yeah, it was the same thing for me, man. But it's like I think one of the things that I just remember as young kid, and I'm probably still now because I have tons of figures from the basement, but it's like tons of Spider-Man figures, like random, like no matter. And this is before these toy companies were trying to maximize and take all of our money. There was still a lot of variants of different Spider-Mans out there. And dude, Carlos, I remember going to your freaking backyard when we were little, and one of us had one of the Spider-Mans that you could string the spider
Both
web
of us did,
across, and
man. Yeah.
they zip lined all the way across. So here we are, me and Carlos, probably 14 years old. Don't tell anyone. No, probably a little younger, but we were sitting there like always playing with Spider-Man toys, like here and there, So it's definitely a huge part, and not only just with like the show, but toys and for me, like a big part of the childhood being comics and stuff. And man, I'm just so happy that a movie like this is out, because not only does it incorporate more of like, again, what the show was doing, what like every other movie's been doing, but even just the artistic style, man. That's the number one reason why I'm always going to be a fan of like the whole Miles Morales story being told through the movie media. This
Yeah.
movie was freaking beautiful, and I could watch it so many more times.
Yeah, and then the big thing with me too. So yeah, like I grew up watching that show too, and Spider-Man and X-Men are like my favorite heroes from Marvel too. So and those two cartoons are the big reason why.
Yeah.
But the really cool thing now is that Miles is actually my son's favorite superhero.
Oh,
Like
That
period.
that that's awesome, man. Because I remember, and you could go back into my Facebook, and I did a post when they first said they were going to introduce a Latino African American Spider-Man, and I was really happy because not only was Spider-Man my favorite character, but all of a sudden it's like now it's like, hey, there's going to be a Spider-Man that fits the who I am, the background that I come from. So it's almost
Hmm.
like I got told like, hey, now you're being included in this family of superheroes. So I thought Miles Morales did a lot, for the character when he was first introduced. And now the idea that everybody knows him, he's super popular, everybody wants to dress like him. Dude, I love that. I love what everything this character is doing. And honestly, once Tom Holland goes bye-bye and they introduce this character to maybe take it over, like people are not gonna be disappointed if they do it right.
Dude, I have a question, and I know it's like way too early to do this, but like, who could be a good live action Miles though?
Oh, dude, I don't
Yeah.
know, man. I'll leave
oh,
that
Because
to the
I
casting
yeah,
casting and
there's so
stuff.
many actors. So like that's part of the struggle I have the time. Like even just going over the voice actors for this movie, we're so surprised that there's so many good voice actors. But in general, like
yeah.
live action, I think is very similar, man. You have so many, especially young kids, so many young kids with so much
Hmm.
talent that it's like literally pick someone that can act and someone that loves Spider-Man, right? Because obviously we need to
Hmm.
have just some nerd at heart, so they could do a true representation or true like reiteration of the role. Be amazing. Well, you want it in live action?
Yeah, I
No,
mean,
I could see it in live action.
they have the uncle already in live action, so it's like why
Oh
not go
yeah,
that extra mile, man? That was awesome. That was a cameo that I did
dude,
not
I
expect,
know.
but it was really really cool. I was like, oh my god, I know exactly who that is and why you're there.
Yeah.
He was a big inspiration for Spider-Man or for Miles too when they created him because of Donald Glover kind of was trying to push for it too.
Yeah, that's my understanding that Danny Glover was the inspiration for Miles Morales. I think that's super cool, man. Was it like in Community
Hmm.
that the reason why? Like, I guess in Community he made that kind of like impact. Is that the
Yeah,
understanding?
he was great in Community, man, and then talking about a movie that's about the metaverse and just like things that are like intertwined and everything's like multiverses. Like even Community had a lot of elements of that, and he did a great job at doing that in the show. Like he just created these alternate universes within the show, and this is all about like freaking community college like show. But yeah, Donald Glover was so good in it. I like the idea that yes, that cameo he made is kind of even better because then ultimately, yes, he was the inspiration for Miles Morales, but then also Miles Morales in that other universe becomes the Prowler. So it's like like making a weird loop of like what like, what the hell. It's all intertwined. I love that movie. I think I just keep getting like distracted by like, again, all the different like connections you can make between every little Easter egg. And again, we keep talking about this, the pressure of even like talking about a movie like this without like getting into like, oh, like if you knew all the Easter eggs. I don't. I'm like, I don't know where you were near close. But it's crazy though, because like even like looking online, looking on YouTube, and looking at some reactions or just Easter eggs, I feel like there's some people that I follow that will have a bunch of like Easter eggs, and then the next day they have like 30 more Easter eggs that I forgot about, or 50 more Easter eggs that I didn't mention in the last video. So I can only imagine, like, for the people that actually have the time, don't have a full-time job somewhere else, and can sit here in front of a computer and just sit there and go through comics and everything and be like, this means this. But
all right, well, starting now, guys. If anybody's been listening, it's like, when are they gonna actually start talking about movies? This is it, at the 11-minute mark. Somebody comment on it, like the movie review starts at the 11-minute mark. All right, let's go. Somebody tell us about how this movie starts.
Okay, so the big thing that I'll say about the movie is that like it kind of it builds off of the last one. So in Into the Spider-Verse, you kind of had him like you saw him be bitten, you saw him have the loss of his uncle and all that stuff, and then Kingpin and the regular Spider-Man of his world, and then Peter B. Parker and Gwen and all that stuff. So you had that in the last movie. So in this movie, he's already been Spider-Man for a while. He's going around, he's swinging, he's saving people. People know him. He's talking to the police in his deep voice, and all that stuff, and he's even giving his dad advice about like what to do. And then you see the impact that Spider-Man is having on Miles's personal life, because he's late to everything. His parents are already kind of like wondering, kind of like, where's he at all the time. He has his interview with I think it was like a counselor or something, to see what he's gonna do with his life, and then he's like out specifically like fighting Spot, and then like in the background you see him other stuff, and then he like ties him up and he's trying to get to the thing. But
I can tell that you definitely came late to the movie, because you totally skipped the first 20 minutes
the
of the movie.
Best part of the movie.
It starts with Spider-Gwen and it goes on for 20 minutes.
Oh, yeah. So it's her perspective.
So you immediately went to Miles Morales. So I don't know what that says about you, bro.
Yeah. No, but that's, oh my God. No. And it was funny too, because you didn't.
I totally did. There was a lot of movie there.
No, I'm sorry. You did a great job, and I was totally into it. But I was sitting here like, wait a minute, like the best, like initial first impression of the movie was amazingly beautiful. And again, you're gonna pull my heartstrings, because it's very artistically done. Like that whole first, you said 20 minutes, Carlos, probably about right, like 20 minutes. Yeah. And it's like super artistically done. They do start with the Gwen Stacy story, freaking Ghost Spider. And it's definitely all done in a very painter-esque, like a bunch of paintings. Like any screenshot you would take of the movie would make a beautiful painting you could put up on your wall. Like it was just gorgeous. Not even to just mention the story that was going on, but I think even just the whole mesmerized by the visuals, like there was a lot of like storytelling within the colors I would use, because it would go from like Gwen Stacy showing a certain type of emotion in her like background, and her was like kind of blue, and everything kind of vibrated, the colors vibrated around her. And then, like she had an interaction with her dad and the colors would change immediately. And it was just beautiful. But yes, but the story did start technically with the Gwen Stacy story about her essentially, trying to tell her dad, or at least having that conflict between the dad and him not understanding. He's still trying to make it seem like Spider-Gwen or Ghost Spider, which they don't call her that by that name in this movie, but it's like, that she's the villain because she killed Peter Parker in that universe, right? Which he becomes the Lizard and this whole thing, and that's clearly her best friend. So she did not kill Peter Parker in that universe, but here she is being made a villain for it, being made the bad guy. And it goes into like the beautiful scene where, the Vulture from the Renaissance era comes out, like beautiful, like looks like he's drawn on freaking old parchment paper, like some like
Yeah.
sienna colored, looks like Leonardo da Vinci's like sketches. I think they're fighting in the Guggenheim, one of those like beautiful like New York museums, like or Brooklyn museums. Like regardless, it's a beautiful scene because they have like art references like crazy. I think they had some Jeff Koons. I even mentioned like they made another Banksy joke. Like the whole thing is great because it's a beautiful scene. You're getting introduced to this movie that I think from the old one from Into the Spider-Verse, it stepped it up like 10 times on the visual and the freaking art style of it. And I mean I can't even finish talking about that first scene because it was just beautiful.
No, dude, like right away from the beginning, just the art style they did for Gwen was freaking crazy, man. And like, there's actually, believe it or not, a Pixar movie coming out this weekend that I had no idea. I hadn't seen a trailer. I'm like, how did I miss this? Like a big release. And honestly, man, when I saw the trailer, it looked a little boring, man, just because of the fact that
Which
I
one?
just saw it's called Lamentos, it's coming out. But just from
Oh
like
yeah.
looking at it, it almost seemed like 3D animation alone could no longer hold my interest. Not that I'm not gonna go see that movie and not enjoy it, but I just feel like now that I saw Into Spider-Verse and I saw how creative they got with that movie, especially with like Spider-Gwen's story, dude. Like every time that I saw her, it was like all these beautiful watercolors like dripping down the screen, and I'm like, oh my god, this is incredible! Like finally, I feel like we're at the point because we've already seen it. Some movies are already starting to copy the animation style. I think Puss in Boots was one. The Bad Guys was another one. So it's like, dude, go for it, man. Like even the Ninja Turtles movies that you're wearing, Ramon, like that one's kind of copying the animation style from like the original Spider-Verse movie. So it's like I'm totally here for that, man. So I'm super excited that this movie is like telling everybody, like, hey, you think that's good? Check us out. And then when we win our second Oscar, people are gonna be like, fuck, man, not only did that movie win an Oscar the first time, here's the second time, and they might go for a third time, man. I'm placing a bet right now on that. Because we gotta make a
Dude,
bet in every episode.
yeah, honestly, like I think it has a chance for like best picture, not just best animated.
It has to
Yeah.
be,
movie.
yeah. It's just beautiful. I don't think how anyone can match it because, like, if you do think, like, if you just watch the whole movie, the different amounts of art styles, like every Spider-Man, well, at least major Spider-Man in the movie had their own art style. Like everything kind of revolving around the different universes had its own art style. Like different scenes, like the different, actions that they would take out of the comic strips where it also had a different art style. So, like, the whole thing, and I mean, again, me sitting here just visually like mind effed. I just couldn't believe that there was just so much in it. So yeah, Carlos, you mentioned that. I'm like, I don't know how anyone would be able to like. I could see them taking elements of it,
Yeah.
right? Like Spider Punk, I thought he probably had one of the better animation styles within because it was just changing so much. I could see someone trying to make a movie like that, just that would be great. But to make all of that all in one, it's just being crazy. And I already think this movie is like everything everywhere, all the Spideys at once. So that would be the only way to top it is if you do like that kind of idea of like, more universes wrapped up and then more. And I don't know, man. It's just crazy
Dude,
movie.
and we're talking a lot about like the animation and all that stuff, but that's not even to talk about the story. Like this movie, like especially like that beginning part that completely skipped us, and I apologize for, because like it starts off
Gotta
like
be
so
sorry.
heavy. It starts off so like deep and heavy. Like you feel the loneliness and like kind of like all the pain that Gwen's feeling because of like what happened to her Peter Parker, and then and the blame that she had to bear with it, and just like the fact that she has no one to share it with because her Peter Parker's dead, and then she doesn't have Miles anymore, and she doesn't have anybody. So like when Spider-Man Miguel O Hara and Spider Woman and these other Spider people show up, it's kind of like her release and her opportunity to do that because like at the end of that whole sequence, she ends up telling her dad that she is Spider Woman.
And he rejects her.
Or Ghost Spider. Yeah, and then like it doesn't go well, and then that's kind of when she's like, "All right, I'm out of here,"
Yeah.
kind of thing.
And it's like they
Because
didn't even want her, but yeah, through that moment of her being rejected by her own father, Miguel O'Hara was definitely like, I guess let's go. And then obviously Spider Woman was like the big advocator for this too. But I don't know. I
Yeah. No, because something too. You got to credit for this movie to be successful, man. It's the people behind it, man, and the people that had a big part to
Lord
do
and
with this
Mother.
movie. Phil Lord and Chris Miller, though, they're freaking incredible. If you go back and you look at any movie that they've ever done, man, everything's been a hit. You probably loved every single one of their movies, whether it's like 21 Jump Street, 22nd Jump Street, any of the Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs,
The
the
Lego
Mitchell.
Movie.
The Lego movies, the Mitchells versus the Machines, like those guys, man, have this talent, and I still feel that it was a big mistake to like drop their solo movie. They had filmed
I
80,
know.
they had filmed
I know.
85% of the movie solo, and they said we're gonna start all over because they didn't like their vision, dude. But I bet you, had we gotten that solo movie, it would have been something so incredible, and like it would have probably been one of the best Star Wars movies because those guys are so talented, and it was their fault for like dropping them. But dude, I love them. Like I can't wait for the next project, which I think I'm not sure if it's Amazon that kind of like grabbed them into a deal or Sony that still has them, but whatever they do, man, I'm here for them. And I think that's who I want to credit for this movie being so successful because they're the ones that are pushing the story writing and they're the ones that are coming up with a lot of these ideas. And I think those guys are just killing it. Like they understand us. Like I don't know their ages, but I wouldn't be surprised if I find out they're like 37, 39, and they also grew up watching The
Yeah.
Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah, they're millennials. But yeah, I think Netflix has them, and they're doing or I think they're like producing a few things, but like they're not as hands on as they are with this. But yeah, like it's incredible. Like
Yeah.
and then after all of this happens with Spider Gwen, or Ghost Spider, or Spider Woman. um, so like after all this happens, then it goes into Miles, and then like everything that I explained.
We kind of got an introduction, a small one, to Miguel O Hara, Spider-Man
Yeah.
2099, man.
Mhm.
And something that I'm surprised that everywhere I've looked at, nobody has really brought this up. Like somebody brought it up, but they's like, oh, he's vampire Spider-Man. I'm like, okay, is it not obvious that he's turning into Man Spider? Like, is nobody catching this? Like, I've seen nobody bring that up, and I'm like, come on, guys, did you guys not watch the cartoon? Did you guys not read the
Oh,
comic books?
dude,
Like
that was one of
Spider-Man.
my favorite like episodes or
Yeah,
series or
so like
parts
I
of it.
think he's constantly taking this serum to not turn into Man Spider. So like the idea's already been placed. I think we just gotta wait for the sequel, and he's 100% gonna turn to Man Spider. At least that's what I'm
Yeah.
seeing from what I got from him. But like nobody's
No,
saying this, and I'm like, why is nobody
no.
bringing that up?
And if anything, they did misidentify him because I think that people are calling him like vampire, like a vampire, and it's not. Like
What?
I remember from what his thing is just solely after his research and stuff. Like he did end up taking like the Spider-Man or the Spider Serum to the point where yes, like it was turning him into a monster. But that monster, what else would it be if you're injecting
Yeah,
Spider Serum
what
into
else?
yourself? Like so,
Because
the
we
fact that they call him a
yeah.
vampire, I'm like, wait, what? No, like maybe because of
Yeah,
his fangs, but
it's his fangs. Because like we got a
spiders have fangs.
spider man that has 6 arms, but I know that's not the man spider,
Not that
the
one.
one we're
Yeah.
talking about. So it has to be like this, almost like werewolf that he's gonna turn to, where he totally loses control, and he's probably is gonna have to be taken down. So I can't wait for that. But sorry, I just had to like mention him because he's a big player in this whole storyline.
But it's cool that you say
Yeah.
even werewolf because in this movie, his like movements and everything, he's very on all
Oh,
fours
dude.
all the
Oh,
time.
Yeah.
dude.
And even his like background music that they play all the time, like really reminds me of like a really deep like horror sci-fi type of thing, like where it's just like heavy tones and like so you hear it and you're just like, holy crap, where is he? Like looking around your back because he's gonna come out. And again, he's not ultimately a bad dude, or at least especially in this
No.
movie as they're building him up, but he's definitely crazed by protecting this whole Spider Verse that they're kind of dealing with. But man, he was another great character because he's part Mexican too. So again, to bring back the Latino representation,
Irish
yeah,
Mexican, yeah.
yeah,
Dude,
yeah, Irish Mexican.
I always thought the Unlimited Spider-Man was Spider-Man 2099, and it wasn't. That was a different Spider-Man. So I was like, oh shit, like here I thought we had gotten a Spider-Man 2099, and it was a bad interpretation in the early 2000s. But I guess
Yeah,
that ended up being a totally different Spider-Man. So I guess this is probably our first live action Spider-Man 29, and it's, dude, so good, man. That
it
character is
looks
gonna be
great.
so popular. And I kind of already kind of like mentioned to you guys, but I own his first
Hell yeah.
appearance, so I can only wait in 20 years for this bad boys to go up in value.
No,
Ramon, Ramon, I didn't tell you this, but there's actually a second copy in here, and I was going to give it to you, but now I'm having doubts about it.
but having doubts why I didn't see anything. No, and it's funny too because like it's one of those things, man. Like I at least the things that I still salvage, I think I probably still have a couple comic book cards of him like somewhere around again, moldy, but they're still around. And it's just like, dude, it's things like again things that we've been holding on at least for me
Yeah.
like 90s, like early 2000s. I'm like, this is stuff we still have, and obviously go out and buy it if you love the
Dude,
media. Like, it's out
have
there.
we,
Like, support it.
dude, have we held on to our Pokemon cards? We would have been able to buy a
I
freaking
know.
house by now.
Yup. Which is a
Uh,
sad
And my
realization.
X-Men
But
cards too. I used to have like a
dude,
Mr. Sinister
oh god,
holographic
don't,
and Psylocke and a bunch of other ones.
beautiful. I would
yeah, don't
run down
start
there
talking
and
to us about that stuff because yeah, we had a
that's
lot of
what
that.
I know. We go on forever about this like random collection stuff that we have. But I mean, to tie it back, okay, because we keep. I mean, this is again great topic because clearly you guys can tell that we're nerdy about this stuff. But I mean,
Passionate.
so I know Raul, when you were like kind of briefing us and sending us like a text message about like after you saw the movie, you were saying like, oh man, it's emotional. Like your son had a response to it, and I mean, I think that should be one of the first things that again you can make a connection with, right? Because Gwen
Oh my
Stacy
god.
was clearly dealing with her dad and the problems between that, right? Like her trying to
Mhm.
figure out how to get her dad to accept her, and then obviously her dad not accepting her. And then at the same time, after you have Miles Morales, like, you know, yes, you see him kind of struggle through this whole thing. He's also kind of like, you know, Mr. Cool Spider-Man now, and like people kind of know him. And like you introduce Raul, like he does have a weird relationship like as Spider-Man with dad. But then ultimately, I think starts to escalate in that story, and I mean escalate in a family manners type of way, like nothing crazy. But it's like, you know, clearly his parents are not happy at him. Like he's slacking, he's forgetting things. Like I think at this point, like they also make him in charge of bringing like the cake for the dad's
Oh my god.
promotion party because he's becoming
Yeah.
captain, which you know leads to his line later. But it's just like, you know, so like he's kind of failing as a son. Yeah, go ahead.
Did you catch that he brought two cakes because they keep saying like you can't have your cake and eat it too, so like, he brought
Yeah.
two cakes.
Oh yeah, because he did say that. But it's because like they were
Yeah.
also like they made a lot of like kind of jokes about that too. Because when he told freaking Spot or whatever his name was, maybe I'm spacing his name. But anyways, when he told him about like calling how
Yeah.
silly it was that he was calling the ATM machine when it's
Yeah.
already the ATM.
Yeah.
And then the same thing too when he's with the Indian Spider-Man, it was the same thing too with chai. It's like don't call it chai tea because that's chai. And then even
Like
non-bread
TT.
because that's and then non-bread because that's non. And then I thought it was like kind of funny because I think that's
Yeah.
very similar to the two cakes thing because I think at one
Yeah.
point
Yeah.
he did make that joke.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so
yeah,
yeah.
because I mean that's the whole thing of the story. Everybody's telling him that if you want to be Spider-Man, you have to have this like incredible sad moment that has to happen in your life, and he's like, why can't I still be Spider-Man without this moment? So that's like the whole mold that he's trying to break, man. And I do find it very fucked up the idea that they know when these uncles or father figures are gonna die, and they don't stop it because it's like at the end of the day, it's like you are Spider-Man, so the fact that you know about it and you refuse to stop it, like that's a bigger problem to me.
I mean,
Dude, no, yeah, and then another thing that I think we're kind of glossing over a little bit too, kind of in the beginning part, is kind of the fact that he's trying to juggle his personal life and being Spider-Man is the reason why Spot got loose, because he had him, he was in the webs, but then he just left him there because he had to go to the interview, and then that's how he ended up getting away, and then everything happened because he couldn't balance between the two.
not to mention that he's like someone that appeared in the old movie as one of the scientists that freaking Miles ultimately throws a bagel at, like hits him in the head. Which
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't know, man. It's just like I see that those intricacies, man. It's crazy.
It's like it was funny when he went into his room and he's like telling his roommate like, "Hey, why don't you like? Can you call the cops?" Like, nah, man. That's how it starts. Like, first I'm calling the cops, then I'm like helping you like with something else, and then I'm the guy in the chair.
Chair.
I don't know, man.
They have so many references to the other Spider-Man movies too.
All
Because
of them.
yeah, besides the pictures of like Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield and all that stuff, but like the Ned in Tom Holland, he calls himself the man in the chair specifically, and that's supposed to be like the same type of Ned as Ned from Tom Holland Spider-Man.
Yeah, and it's
Dude,
crazy because even the Ned in this movie is like someone different. I think he was one of the
Yeah.
bullies at the school that pushed him around, and I'm just like, what? Like, damn! Like, see, let's say the fact that you could go into this movie and just find all these Easter eggs is nuts.
dude, have we gotten a hobgoblin in into the Spider-Verse, like a hobgoblin in this one? Like, I don't understand why.
That's
Like, I understand that he looks like a green goblin, but with the hobgoblin, you can do what you couldn't do with the green goblin, which is like do the whole Halloween theme. So, like, I'm waiting for that hobgoblin, man. Like, don't be
that's
scared.
not for
Like, put
that
it out there.
character.
Yeah.
Didn't we
that
get a
character, right? Yeah.
Hobgoblin in the Incredible Spider-Man too?
Well, I'm talking about like either the live action. Oh no. Well, Ned, the guy in the chair, Ned, he's supposed to actually turn into the
he turned into
Hobgoblin, but
Hobgoblin. Yeah,
yeah, but I want to see it, man. I want to see a live action.
yeah.
I understand that people are tired of the Green Goblin, but let's get it, man. At least give it to me in an animated form. Like that's all I'm asking for.
I mean, now that we know they can make like awesome movies like this, I could take more animated movies. Like, just keep them coming. If that's gonna help you make them quicker, yeah, right. One a year.
One animated, one live action a year. The live action ones are awesome too.
Was there any specific villain that you guys thought that was super cool? Like, I liked the intro when they fought that Vulture, but I was like, man, that guy's like kicking all their asses. So I'm like, I wonder what the Spider-Man that fights him, like how strong he is, because obviously he has to handle him by himself. So like, is there any other ones that you thought was like really cool the way they look?
Like villains in this movie, or
villains in this movie. Like when they were like captured and they were like trying to transport them. Like I didn't know if there was one that stood out to you.
Wasn't there just just a regular rhino and just
a regular rhino? That one,
that one right there.
The potential of that one, man. Imagine the Spider-Man that had to fight him though, the little itsy spider.
I think I saw a Craven too, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think there was a Craven in there. See, those are the scenes that were so distracting, man. It's like you visually can capture everything. I can't wait to own these.
You probably
movies.
Gotta go like frame by frame.
Yeah. Once I own the movies, I will sit here frame by frame. I'll be like, Carlos, I finally have an answer a year later. Like I got it. I bought the movie and I slowed it down.
Dude, are you guys chipping Miles and Gwen together? Because like those scenes in the early on when she comes in and like goes into his room and it all leads to like them possibly almost holding hands. Like I feel it, man. Like I feel the sparks. I feel the connection. Like I will be disappointed if by the third one we don't at least get a kiss from them.
Well, I mean, so this is, again, the Miles Morales story is like so new to a lot of people, right? And if you don't keep up with comics and stuff, it's difficult. For me, it's still relatively new outside of like what we've been seeing over the last couple of years, or I guess it's been like, 4 years since the other movie, 2018? Holy crap. So it's like, it's been a long time since like the original movie. And it's like, just even knowing more and more stuff, like I keep forgetting that I don't know if they are supposed to be an item, but it's like obvious that they're supposed to be an item. And I think it's funny because I think that part of this movie was beautiful again, because in Gwen's, like we talked about it already, like in Gwen's part of the story in the beginning, she's also longing not only for Peter Parker, her best friend that has passed away and she had to accidentally kill or had to tragically kill, but then also she's longing for Miles because it was the only person that she truly felt connected to in the near, like most recent past. Even though they had the other Spider-Mans that joined them through those journeys and stuff, and then the same thing too. Then Miles is over here freaking hung on her, right? His whole sketchbook is nothing but freaking Gwen, right? Like he even had some like really scandalous like drawings in there, which man, that kid needs to get a little. Woof. But anyways, so it's like once they actually got together, it was beautiful to see them like finally be able to hold on to each other, finally be connected to each other. I love that scene when they're hanging upside down off of that building and they're kind of seeing like that whole landscape, but it's upside down. Like it's oh my God, it's just awesome. Beautiful. But I also didn't like that she had the alternate, mission to go there because she was like trying to keep track of Spot, but again, we know why she's restricted from seeing Miles, and I'm sure we'll get to it eventually. We don't keep talking about our figures and comics and other stuff.
And I have another question that I think I just realized. Like, there really isn't a lot of young Spider people that you see because they're all like adults, like from Peter Parker to Miguel O'Hara to Spider Woman to like all these Spider Punk. All these.
I think India Spider was like the one that was like he just became a Spider-Man. So he was the one that gave me that teenager kind of vibe. So I would say him would be young,
one, late teen maybe.
And then the Avatar one. The one
that's right.
Yeah, she was pretty young too. She even kind of winked at Miles or had a little moment with Miles. The Avatar one, the one that was just there. Yeah. They even had a moment too. Remember, because she's the one that ultimately let him like kind of get away with escaping and all that stuff. So, but I think those are the only.
I'm kind of curious how she's gonna play out in the third movie because obviously, like you're thinking, like how can she even interact with other people with a hologram? So that's gonna be kind of cool if we see more of that. That's what I like about these movies. Like I kind of mentioned to you, Ramon, the Asian one with the robot. Like that's actually an interpretation of the whole Evangelion story. So like it was kind of cool to see her robot, and it's like, oh, you're slowly looking like an Evangelion You know, so it's kind of like I want to see more of that. And then
And
you know,
Eva.
I was more
And Eva.
disappointed that we didn't get you know, the pig, Spider Pig, to come back, because John Maloney, my homie, I forget his last name.
Your homie John Mulaney.
John Mulaney, like he's so
Your
good,
homie.
man. He's so
Hilarious.
good as a Spider Pig, man. Like I wish we would have gotten
Good
more of him.
noir.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Noir. Nicolas Cage. Let's go.
Well,
Yeah.
well, Nicolas Cage said he wasn't gonna voice it anymore, so I don't know if that's because of money, but he said that he wasn't no longer gonna do it. At least for this movie. Maybe in the third one they'll give him a bigger paycheck.
He's over there chasing real life pigs and animatronics and stuff. So you know,
Yeah.
he has other
Real
things
life
in
pigs,
mind.
yeah.
Well, you know what happened? He made that movie Pig, and then all of a sudden he became like, oh shit, let's bring Nicolas Cage back. Yeah, he's back.
Crazy,
Yeah.
man. No,
And
I mean,
he's over here making movies with Pedro Pascal and
nah,
and all
man,
these other
it's all
people.
fucking beautiful. But yeah, okay, back to the topic again. No, no. So yeah, so then once Spider-Gwen finally gets taken back to freaking, I assume it's 2099 at that point, right? Because that's where Miguel O Hara is like stationed.
Yeah.
But no, like the another person that we see again is freaking Spider-Man with the little baby with Mayday,
Mayday.
right? And that's another person. Yeah.
We forgot about Spider-Punk, man. Like he came in during that whole India scene, and he actually has yeah, there's a lot to him that I kind of didn't pick up when I first watched the movie, but like now that I saw some people talk about it, I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like I didn't realize that he was the one that told Miles that when he's doing the whole absorbing electricity, you know, Miles was using his like fingertips, and he's like, use the whole palm, and I didn't realize that was him. So that was really cool, man.
Yeah,
that's why he was so proud of him at the end. He's like, yeah.
Yeah. Dude, Gwen was totally boning that guy, right? Like, come on.
Yo. No. What I meant is that I meant to do a segue when we were talking, when you were asking about Gwen and Miles, right? And I know I had it in my mind, but again, we keep getting so distracted because this movie's so good. And I was going to say that, I'm like, but then do you understand why Miles was so freaking jealous when all of a sudden he's just like, wait, who's this guy? Like, who's this guy? Mm-hmm. And then when she's wearing his shoes, like those freaking Converse that she's wearing are his shoes all along. Like, what the heck? Like, you know, like it's like you know that there's something there.
I mean, I think they were just
with him, didn't she?
Yeah.
No, but my understanding of that's like Spider-Punk. He's more like, okay, you know, we're like, you know, I'm gonna say like fuck buddies, and they don't really care about, like, he doesn't care about the relationship. Honestly, he could be fluid. Like, he doesn't even really care about that. He's not really attached to one. I think it's more like, hey, if you're down for this, like, I'm willing to go along with it. But I don't think he has like any hair of jealousy. Like, that man doesn't care about anything. He's all about like, I do my own thing, and that's what I liked about him at the end of the movie. He grew on me.
Well, we were just talking about him too before we even started recording. We were so excited about it, but it's like, you know, his whole thing is like anarchy, right? Like, he follows the UK movement of just like being kind of like punk, like anarchist type of, like, he's all about that
anti-establishment,
like, anti-establishment, anti like capitalism, like anti everything. So of course he was going to become a cheerleader for freaking Miles Morales once he started going against freaking O'Hara, because he's like, no, you know what, fuck that guy. Like, you guys are all trying to stop my guy here. Like, I don't even care that you have a thing with Gwen. You know, go do your thing, boy. Like, run away. And then he even like gave Gwen his watch, or like maybe another watch like later on.
No,
like, he was all for that.
So if you notice when they were walking in Miguel O'Hara's world, when they were walking over to meet with Miguel O'Hara, if you notice that he was taking like random parts from like different machines, he built his own watch. Like,
that's awesome. Yeah, because that is a part where he's like, "What are you even gonna do with that?" And that's a good one, bro. He definitely did that.
Okay.
Yeah. If you actually got to look at it when Gwen had it, like it didn't look the same like all the other ones, or not even because like he had stickers in his style or whatever. It was like it looked completely different. It looked kind of like from his world. But yeah, that's why, because he was taking random parts from different machines as he was walking, and he put one together.
Yeah,
because if you think about it, like all the Spider-Men are like pretty much geniuses, all of them.
Dude, I was so inspired by him right now. We were talking about him, that I was looking for something to break, but then when I looked to the left, it was like nothing but my comic books and then the laptop that I have. So I'm like, wait, I can't break that, because I wanted to also be like rebel, like F this. But such a cool character, man. You know, if you catch it, the reason why it's also not converting with the animation is because he's also fighting that. If you look it up, like, the creators kind of like did a different way of animating him, and it's because like they're trying to do it that he's not converting to the way he should, and that's why he's like looks so differently than everybody. So it's just so cool, man. The whole idea behind him, I love it.
And
Yeah.
oh no, I mean,
His frame rate is different than the rest.
yes.
So like Miles, let's say for every 3 of his frames, there's 1 frame of Spider-Punk.
Yeah.
Yeah, and everything's a different animation too, different color scheme, black and white color. Dude, I don't know, he's crazy.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
then again, I know like I was definitely not like for like trying to break down like a lot of things in here, but like I told you guys a little earlier too, like he was one of the guys that when I had looked him up in the past, when like his figures started coming out, and I was like, who is this guy? Like, this is Spider-Punk, like why? And he's one of the connections that I do like to the actual Miles Morales is that he's also like in real life he's Hobby Brown, which he does technically become the Prowler in another universe. So again, more connections with the Prowler, right? Because obviously by the end of this movie we find out that's a huge part of the Miles Morales story. But man, that's another, again, so you have that person that in another universe could have been or should have been the Prowler or is the Prowler, and then you have Miles Morales who ultimately, again, towards the end of the movie you find out. So it's just, oh man, it's just like so crazy.
No, dude, because like part of me like it's even wondering like if there's gonna be spin-offs based on this movie. Because one of the things about the original Spider-Verse, like in the comic books, is that the reason they get together is because there's these creatures, actual vampires, that feed off other Spider-Men, so they're like hunting them and killing them. So I was almost even hoping that we would get a hint of these vampires. Not Morbius, like they're actually a family of vampires that feed specifically on Spider-Man, so they have to like kill Spider-Man to like feed on them. So it's kind of cool. So I almost feel like I don't want it in this movie trilogy, but if they do a spin-off, like I would love to see the idea of like somebody's going out there and killing Spider-Man. So I think that would be like something really cool to see.
I know what you're talking about. They do eat the spider, that they feed on Spider-Mans, like different Spider-Mans. Like, holy crap, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so hopefully we see something like that in the next one, like just for like a little tease for what's to come.
That's
kind of like the one from with Jet Li.
I mean, yeah, they're not getting. They just need the energy. I don't know what. Yeah,
I think that maybe they just become obsessed with the taste of Spider-Man's. Like I don't know, some crazy stuff like that.
All right, let's go back to the movie. So you were saying about Spider-Man 2099.
So many tangents.
No, I mean, well, what else have we been touching?
Called it. Ramon said we were gonna nerd out, and
we were gonna nerd out.
Nerding out.
I love this episode for this reason, but man, like I don't know. I guess it's in that like right like. I don't even know where we're at. Oh no, because I mean at this point we're back. Yeah, we're back with my Miguel O Hara. Like they're all like basically at this point I think we start finding out why Miles Morales is kind of the outcast he is, because even here still, right? Like we're watching this movie and I'm almost forgetting everything just for the purpose of enjoying the movie, and you're starting to find out that the reason why he is the last person they want, he's the person they want to like keep away from all this, is because supposedly they think he's a mistake, right? Because the spider that bit Miles Morales is actually from another universe, which is Spider or the Universe 42. And ultimately again this leads into something else in the movie, but I love that idea, right? Because they're trying to outcast them, right? And in a freaking what is it called, like a not man cave, oh my god, like a freaking place where you have all the Spider-Mans unite, and this is this whole clamorate of Spider-Mans. They don't want one of them because he was a mistake. Like it seems pretty messed up, right? And that kind of goes the whole thing with race and all that, and even like the number 42. Like I know plenty of people have mentioned it before, but that's kind of an homage to Jackie Robinson, which, played for Brooklyn. And it's just, it's crazy because, again, something else that the movie is doing for you. And I think that they kind of like have the same conversation, but with Spider-Man's, like, right? Yeah. Like it's they don't want him. They just don't want him to be part of that. And it makes much sense why they didn't want Gwen, even at some point. They didn't want Gwen to be with them either, because she's also very attached to him.
Yeah.
But of course, they blame him for everything.
I guess somebody confirmed that the spider, the one that got teleported to Miles' universe, that was the one that when it was falling down, it was actually going to land on that world, Earth 42's Miles Morales. So had it not gotten teleported, that Miles Morales would have become Spider-Man. So I guess that's been confirmed. So I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool, because that's interesting, because obviously that world's kind of going to hell from what we saw. And
it's funny because we missed that on the. I mean, if you didn't, I didn't catch it during the movie, but I saw it because they did that black and white, like where the spider was supposed to land, and there you had Miles Morales with the freaking braids, and it wasn't until later on.
I totally missed it.
Yeah,
dude, I didn't come up with this theory, so I'm not gonna take credit for it. But somebody pointed out that that Miles Morales at the end of the movie, that's like the Prowler. He's actually like, you're meant to believe that he's a bad guy, and he's like doing bad things. But somebody threw out the idea that he's actually possibly like the Batman of that universe. Like maybe because he didn't become Spider-Man, he was always good, but he
He
took
got
out
the
the
suit, yeah.
he took on the Prowler suit to fight these other bad guys. So he's actually doing good, but he's just a little bit
Maybe.
more gritty. And I'm like, you know what? When we do get introduced to him, like his uncle's talking to Miles about like a plan, and we're led to believe this is probably going to be a heist, like diamonds, cash. But what if it's like a plan to take down all these bad guys in one night? So it's just like now I like the idea of like for the next movie, you're thinking like Miles versus Miles, but it's actually going to be like Miles versus Miles working together towards defeating like some kind of purpose. So I like that. I like that because I think that's also gonna like set my expectations to be like, oh shit, like this is totally a different way of looking at what I thought was gonna be a very obvious story.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
whichever
yeah,
theory that is awesome.
no, yeah, yeah, and I think I kind of got like a slight like inkling that like maybe he's not bad or whatever, but like I
Yeah.
don't know, it was a whole like interesting moment too. And
Well,
then
our Miles,
another thing,
yeah. No, I was gonna say our
an,
Miles is our Miles is not scared anymore, and he was ready to get
yeah,
out of there. Like we left off with him already, like shocked, kind of shocked the thing that he was strapped to. So he's ready to get out, man. In the next movie,
Yeah.
the movie's
yeah,
just gonna start with him getting out immediately.
yeah, and he also he didn't get the Spidey sense either when all that happened.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
if you keep
yeah.
that in mind too.
And that's another thing too. Like again, the Prowler, another character that ultimately goes good. Like somewhere in the comics, he also turns good, and he ends up being like a hero as well. So it's like maybe this is that Prowler, you know. And like you said, isn't that universe like? Didn't they say that it was like infested or ran by the cartel of the Sinister Six? Is
Sinister
that what it
Six,
is? So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so it's like, but the cartel
The
of the Sinister
cartel.
Six. That's just like holy crap. So I don't know whoever theory, like wherever you got that theory from, I think that has like actually would be great. Like that would make for a better movie than like Miles versus Miles. Like I'm mad because you took my spider. That should have been my spider. Like get off. Like
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing too, to kind of backtrack a little bit too, when he was when Miles was meeting with all the Spider people, and they were kind of going through everything. I think part of the reason why they didn't want him there either was because he hadn't gone through his Uncle Ben moment, which would have been
Mm.
his dad dying. Because before that happens, like anyone would want to stop that because if you notice, he caused like an incursion event, or he
Yeah.
stopped the cannon moment or whatever with
Yeah.
the Indian Spider-Man, um, by saving his Stacy's dad or whatever, which kind of happens in like everyone, and then it kind of made it seem like Gwen's dad was gonna die at some
Yeah.
point, and she kind of like made peace with it, like with the fact that he was gonna die. He's a captain, and then Miles's dad is about to become a captain, and then like they think that if he knows that he's gonna try to stop
I,
his death, and it's gonna cause like issues with the universe.
I guess you can explain it to me, Ramon, but to me, the way the first movie explained it to me, like Miles' canon event was his uncle dying in his arms. And then Gwen's canon event was Peter Parker dying. So this whole
Mhm.
idea now that it's like has to be like her father figure, like the captain, like I don't understand why that's happening or if I can get behind that. That was like the only flaw that I found in the movie,
Yeah.
but I just don't know why they did that.
No, I agree that it's confusing, and I obviously can't speak for fact because I'm not sure what their true intentions were. But I think that's kind of how I picked it up too. How it was like the dad was supposed to be his uncle was supposed to be the canon event already, right? But then now that the fact that Miguel O'Hara is like thinks that he's the overall seer of all this, he's already saying also that there is more than just that, and it's the captains as well that are the ones that are gonna die. So I think it almost becomes like a kind of mixed signal type of situation where they do think that the dad is gonna die. Because then again, obviously the groundbreaking point in that part is that Gwen Stacy's dad ultimately resigns, and so then you find out that it's not like gonna be like the end of the world for her. But I think it's similar. It was supposed to be his uncle. Like his uncle was
Yeah.
always it because in the original movie or like in Into the Spider-Verse, that was it. And then after that, he did become Spider-Man. Right? There was
Yeah.
no
Mhm.
like, I mean, that already happened, but I think, yes, I think the movie made it seem like, oh, it's going to happen to you again, and you just haven't suffered enough. And then all the captains die, which again, with the how fucked up the movie is in that perspective, which again, they already know that that's going to happen to them. And they're not going to tell them. And I think that's still messed up, right? Because like even if Miguel O'Hara thinks that it's going to be some crazy end of the world type of event, like just to kind of almost the fear of not even trying to do something for it, or maybe they're just so jaded that it already happened to them. But like, why would you not stop that or try to prevent that from someone else, right? Because again, with the Indian Spider-Man, which again, we didn't even talk about that, but freaking beautiful scene and sequence and all that. It was
Mombata,
awesome. Yeah, awesome. But clearly when you find out that he kind of went through all that, and yes, you got the black hole and it was trying to suck everything up, but even after kind of they mended it and the Spider-Mans came in there and they tried fixing it, it still wasn't the end of the world. But I do love that it is kind of the not the climax of the movie, but it is like the breaking point of the movie is when Miles finds out that his dad is gonna die because he's a captain. So maybe it's not his making the Spider-Man moment, but he just finds out he's gonna die.
It's a canon moment.
Yeah, it's a canon moment. Yeah.
Dude, the thing that kind of just like that all of this kind of makes me wonder. So like Miguel O'Hara, he lost. I think it seemed like he lost a kid or something like that, but he lost his family, and then he went into this other world, and then he tried to replace that Miguel O'Hara, and then it caused like issues in that world or whatever. So I think that he believes that like a Spider-Man, for it to be a good Spider-Man, they cannot be happy. So he's trying to like instill that in everybody else. So he wants all the other Spider people to be miserable because he's miserable. So he's like in a way he's kind of projecting or whatever. Well, this whole movie is full of issues of like personal issues of people.
I mean, the whole fact that when the India Spider-Man, like his world does start breaking apart, it kind of like makes me want to believe him, but still there has to be more to it. Instead of trying to be like, we got to just let them die, like try to come up with a solution to the problem. And I was going to ask you, now that you mentioned that scene, Raul, when he was doing that scene, the mentor Spider-Man that we know, he was also kind of part of that shot. I don't know because it was part of that shot because of the way he was explaining the story. Or was he part of that world? Was this like his world that he tried to invade? Or why was his mentor Spider-Man, the one with the baby, he was in that shot when the world was falling apart? So that kind of led me a little bit confusion because I was thinking like, okay, was he always supposed to be there because that was his world he tried to invade? Or was just that flashback ended in a particular way that he was just in the corner when the background story of his backstory like ended? I don't know. It caused me a little bit of confusion. Because it was almost like his mentor was because even it was almost like his mentor was agreeing with him because almost like he saw it, like he experienced it. He was there when Miguel O'Hara tried to invade this world and it started falling apart. But again, I didn't. One of those things again, when I get the movie and I get to watch it all over again, I'll be like, okay, was he there or was he not? I need more clarity.
Well, see, I mean, I guess that's a little confusing, but I think maybe it's more just the fact that they all spent more time with Miguel O'Hara so far. So they already kind of heard him give the speech and heard the lectures.
He's corrupting everyone.
Yeah, he's corrupting everybody in a sense, because that's another part of the movie that I dislike, not in dislike and I don't like the movie, but that I disliked about living the moment in the moment is the fact that, basically Miguel O'Hara ultimately starts turning everybody against Miles, right? So at this point where we're trying to continue on the movie, at this point, Miles is trying to go back. He's trying to go back home. He's trying to save his dad because now he knows that his dad's death or the death of a captain is a canon event. So it's going to happen. And so that's where everything breaks loose, right? This is where Miguel O'Hara is like, no, he cannot escape. This is where he can't leave here. And then we go into this crazy, amazing chasing of basically all the Spider-Mans after Miles Morales. But another part is that
Spider
right?
beings.
Like, all the spider beings, like the T-Rexes, the cars, the cats, But I mean, before we get too distracted with the cats, hold on. But a great part about that too is that it's in the midst of all that craziness, you have Miguel O'Hara telling Spider-Gwen and that Peter Parker, the one with the baby, to like stop supporting him, to stop trying to help him, to capture him. And I think that's a moment for them that they really are really conflicted because they love Miles Morales, right? They already are part of a group, like that's their band. And now they have to basically go against him and be like, okay, we're going to deny you this. No matter how much we love you, we're going to go like where we're going to, because he said so, because the big guy said he's, we shouldn't, we're going to have to stop you now. And I love that dilemma, right? Because even with that Spider-Man and Mayday, this whole time he's like proud that he was a good mentor for Miles Morales, right? He's playing the father figure, but now he also has a baby, and so he's like this whole idea of like dad and fatherhood and how you make your parents proud or how proud you might be as a father. Like that's amazing, man. I'm jealous sometimes with you guys, but so anyways, this whole idea of like that Peter Parker being conflicted of this is like prodigy in a sense, or the guy that he kind of helped raise and become Spider-Man. Now he has to go against them and be like, okay, go let your real daddy go die. Like, who cares?
Well, if it makes you feel better, Ramon, if I throw my daughter against the wall, she's not going to stick for once. She's already letting me down. But, it's pretty funny with the whole mentor thing because he's always like, even though we know that Spider-Man is not the best Spider-Man, just because Miles Morales is so great and he's debating everybody, he's like, yeah, I trained him, and because he's so great, that makes me so great. It's so funny that he's just kind of like going off his success.
Yeah. Would he be able to do that without a great mentor or random stuff like that?
It's so freaking hilarious, man. What a terrible dad.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Like this, yeah.
Because even at the last shot of the movie, like he's still carrying the baby. I'm like, dude, leave this baby with Mary Jane. Like, what are you doing?
Later, exactly that scene where like Spider-Gwen comes back for him. He's like, you know what this means, right? Like, you're gonna join me. He's like, all right, let's go, Mayday, let's go. Like, why wouldn't you leave her? But I guess she becomes like Spider-Girl or something in that universe too. So that's a whole nother character. So let her start young. Let her get like really into it.
That was so funny when he was like showing them pictures of her, even though she was like right there. It's like, like I can't imagine doing that, like carrying my child and then be like, "Here, you want to see these pictures of her?" It's like,
I could totally see you doing that, Carlos.
No, not while I'm carrying her in my chest.
I still see you doing that.
But Mary was super cute, man. Like that scene when they're ready to go to action and she pulls down her little crocheted mask, like, let's go. Like,
yeah, no. So I mean, let's say who our favorite Spider-Mans in the movie is. I mean, I didn't like his interpretation, but I like the Spider-Man, the Ben O'Reilly, the clone Spider-Man, Scarlet Spider. That was my favorite Spider-Man. Like, even in the movie, they did his animation great. He looked amazing, but the whole fact that they play with this like really emo side of him, I was like, oh my god, like
emo, I can't even, dumb, like
dude, I can't even be mad at it because that's kind of how the character's a little bit if you think about it. But it's just, I'm like, Scarlet Spider's my favorite kind of looking spider because he even has those like web shooters like in his wrist to make him super cool looking. So yeah. I was disappointed with him, but still loved him.
I'm surprised we went the whole time without even mentioning him because he was such a fun, like, comedic part in the beginning. Because for those people that don't know Scarlet Spider, he's definitely like not Spider-Man; it's a clone. And I just thought it was so funny from the very beginning. The first thing they introduced him, he's like lamenting. He's like, "Oh my goodness, like something," and then the whole time he's like, "Oh, my muscles." The pose and like it was hilarious. I was kind of happy when they kind of got rid of him, like not right away, but, like, soon after that, because I can't imagine him really being in the midst of everything. But
well, he took him as like one of his top commanders. So I was thinking like, cool, maybe we'll get like a really cool scene with him to redeem him. But like, no, he gets taken out immediately. I'm like, disappointed.
He's probably just like strong and quick, and I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
So maybe he's cool. Good at fighting. Yeah, he looks.
Cool. That's a tough question.
He looks like Peter Parker.
He looks like Peter Parker. That's a tough question. I actually just like Spider-Woman a lot, man. Like Spider-Woman was like a character that I was really happy to see because, again, just not only are we having more inclusivity and just adding this whole diversity in this, but this is the perfect movie. But then she is like another like pivotal figure in comics and also like the Spider-Man universe. Like she is Spider-Woman and she did so good, right? She like we've been talking about dads in this movie. Well, she was kind of like became the adoptive mother of Gwen Stacy, and I think she even said that in the beginning. She's like, "Adopt me," and she's like, "What?" And then later on, it kind of seemed like very much right. Like even though she was supposed to like her trying to save Miles, she still kind of like let her get away with some of the stuff so she can go help him. So she was pretty cool.
Yeah, she's carrying Miguel O Hara's son, right? Like baby, like it has to be, right?
From what I remember, I think so. But yeah, it's been a while.
I mean, not even from like comic books, just from like the movie we saw. Like I feel like they hinted at like something very handsome, and I'm like, they have to be a couple. They don't you don't see it in any point in the movie, but I feel like that's whose baby that belongs to.
Yeah,
but I don't know. Like that's the thing though. The Miguel O'Hara that we saw in the movie, like I don't see him wanting to have that type of connection with anybody though.
Well, he wanted a family.
I feel like he's like self-punishing. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, she could have been there for him, and then you know how it is, bro. Somebody's like consulting you and like, don't worry,
sad.
And then they'll take it back. Oh my god, you did not have to put it like that, but yes, that's exactly how it goes down.
Please, if you follow us and you watch us on YouTube, just don't watch
Yeah.
that moment right there. Raul just
Edit it out.
no.
Edit it
Yeah.
out, Carlos.
No, do not edit it out. Maybe it'll make people go check out our YouTube
Hey.
page. But
We all know that everybody drops up to the 35-minute mark, so we're in the safe zone, bro.
I don't even know how to quit this movie right now, man. What haven't we hit that's like super like great? I mean, obviously, okay. So Scarlet Spider we talked about, great. Like go ahead.
Well, I mean, like the coolest part, like I kind of joked about it in the beginning, where it's like, like he gives that speech, like Miles, Miguel O'Hara finally has him in the train, and he's like, "You need to like follow whatever," and he's like, "Nah, man, everybody keeps telling me like what to do, but I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna do my own thing." And that line to me as being like somebody like when Miles' mom was giving him that speech, like people are gonna constantly be telling you like you don't belong here. This is not your world. And you constantly have to prove them, man. Like that's how I feel honestly in life when I'm doing my job. I feel like I'm constantly being reminded, like, hey, you don't belong here. You're not good enough. So I have to like try even harder. I have to be even better. I have to even be earlier and later, stay later than everybody else because I have to prove them that I do belong here. And it is like that, man. So like that with me resonated like in a big, big way.
That's awesome.
Dude, with me, the big thing about the whole movie that kind of like hit me hard was like all the daddy issue stuff. Because I have daddy issues, and then like I have a son now, which I'm trying to like resolve these daddy issues by being like a good dad or whatever to him, and then like watching it with him, and then because like after the movie, he was like super like aguitado. I don't know how to say it in English.
Oh,
like for a little bit,
Down,
yeah. He was like down in melancholy and whatever, but like because it's like I don't know, I feel like I need to give people like it's like I guess trigger warnings for like daddy issues for this movie because it hits like a bunch of them for like a lot of people, whether it's like with Gwen and her dad, whether it's Miles and his dad, whether it's Miguel O'Hara and his kids, whether it's Peter B. Parker and Mayday, whether it's like there's so many like dad and child and in-laws and significant others and parents, and there's just a lot of story and substance like in this movie that like besides the amazing animation and the great voice acting and all of that, there's just so much in this movie that like, honestly, like right now, I don't think I've seen a better movie this year at all, and I don't know if I'm gonna see a better movie this year.
Oh no,
that's beautiful.
Like again, like how do I go see Pixar like knowing this movie's still in theaters?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, visuals for me was like super impactful, but I mean, obviously, visuals was swag because that was the whole movie. And kind of leading into the end of the movie, one of the things I actually really enjoyed about the movie was not the twist, but yeah, kind of the twist at the end, right? Like Miles Morales escapes and he thinks he's going back to his own universe, right? And then it's like you already kind of feel that something's off, not only because of like things feel different, but then you have even Miguel O'Hara, like it seems like, and I thought they were doing it on purpose, but it seems like two different worlds, right? Miguel O'Hara standing on top of a rainy building, everything's red, and then freaking Miles Morales is running around trying to find his place, and everything looks super crime infested, all beat down, like super dirty. And then so right away you're like kind of sitting here like, wait a minute, where is he at? Like this does not look like where we saw originally, like earlier in the movie. And then he gets to his apartment, he's talking to his mom. One of the biggest things is
clean.
Like, the room is clean, and they have a Comic-Con or they have a comic convention. And in Miles's original universe, they don't have a Comic-Con.
Oh, cool.
And that's one of the things too, because remember, like she's like, or like, oh, is that because when he's trying to explain to her that he is like Spider-Man, and she's like, what are you talking about? Is this one of your other cosplay things? But again, in his original universe, they don't have like, or at least there wasn't that kind of thing of like cosplaying or anything like that. So anyways,
Miles isn't into that.
And it kind of hit me like that when we got to that point, and again, this is towards the end of the movie, it was just hitting me. I'm like, wait, what like where are we? And then his uncle comes in and you're like, holy shit, like we're not in we're somewhere else. Like what?
We're not in Kansas anymore.
Yeah, it's not in Kansas whatsoever, man. And then yes, of course, then you have that rooftop scene, and kind of almost knew right away that absolutely, maybe not that it was a prowler, but because the uncle was there when something hit him in the head or like hit him from behind, you knew there was someone else. I also kind of took it as a giant shock that it was the prowler. And then again, the ultimate reveal that the freaking prowler was Miles Morales. Like crazy.
No,
I
even
think
you describe it.
I think it's
Yeah.
I think it's Miles G. Morales or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because even you
He has the
describing like
initial.
his scene and how sweet his mom is, it kind of does let me to believe that Miles is gonna be like a little bit more again, like a little bit angrier and more like get to the point, not have this sense of humor that our Miles has. But I still feel like he might be good. Um, the only thing that I just kind of wanted to say, guys, because it's probably like a story that you guys even heard about, but did you guys hear how the the Lego scene was done by like a 14-year-old? Like that was actually done by a 14-year-old,
Yes.
and that was super cool. I actually showed my wife the trailer that he recreated, shot by shot, dude, and it was like I was almost watching the original trailer, but in Lego form. Like it was incredible. So I understand why they gave that kid like, hey, make a scene for our movie, and like dude, I was telling my wife like that kid from now on, he's gonna be able to say like I did this, but now he's almost gonna have like the same story as Miles Morales. He's gonna have to prove that because now he has to be even better than anybody else. He has to be like more talented. He has to try harder because everybody's gonna have these expectations. So it's like they're putting the Miles Morales story in him. Like he has to prove that he belongs wherever he goes next. So this is again something super cool that came out of that movie. The whole
Here we
idea
are,
Dude,
behind it.
Carlos applying the pressure from the beginning. Leave that kid alone. He's gonna do great.
No,
No, that was
dude,
awesome
Yeah.
though.
I think it's super cool that like studios are doing this now because like if you guys like I don't know if you guys knew like so at the end of the Mandalorian when Luke is de-aged or whatever, like I don't know if you guys saw the original one, but there was somebody like online that like redid the edit and made it so much better for that Star Wars ended up hiring him so
Yeah.
to do the next season when Luke is young with Grogu when he's training him as a Jedi. But yeah, like studios are catching on where like they see people like, oh, these people are talented. They're just like not working in the industry, like they're just doing it as a hobby, but they're really good at it, so we should hire them. And then
It's
that's how they
amazing.
are ending up like actual getting jobs because they just put their work out there. Ramon.
Yeah. Okay.
No,
Come
no,
hire me.
no. So I guess another thing that might happen in the next movie that we haven't seen that somebody brought up to my attention is that the Spider-Man pig gave Miles Morales that hammer, and he's like, put it in your pocket, it'll fit in there. So I guess people are also kind of waiting for that moment where Miles Morales is gonna like out of his pocket bring this giant out hammer and like smack somebody with it. So that's also something that I'm expecting in the next movie because I totally forgot about that hammer.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah.
Until
The
right now
hammer
that
that
you
cut
mentioned it.
the hammer that comes out of nowhere. It's just like whoosh.
Nah, man. But I mean, again, you said it, Ramon. There's going to be so many things to talk about this movie. I think we're at a good point, unless you guys feel like there's something that we just totally missed the mark on. But as far as from like storytelling point, we touched everything. Raul forgot the beginning, but we brought it back. You know, we
Oh my
at
goodness.
Spot.
I'm
We really didn't
sorry.
talk. We talked about Goofy Spot, but we didn't talk about like Dark Spot.
Oh,
So
that's
that's cool, man. I can't wait to see how they handle that character going forward.
kind of scary because like I think he was always supposed to be a joke villain too. Like I don't remember him
Mhm.
being anything
Oh
crazy in the
no!
comics. I
What are
don't
you,
remember
a
him being
Villain of the
cow?
anything
week.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember
Villain of
him
the
being
week, yeah.
anything impactful, right? He's no Thanos, he's nothing like that. But now the movie's making him seem like he's some freaking king, the conqueror, like Thanos type of thing. Maybe not based on power, but based on his abilities. Like the fact that he's
Yeah.
harnessed that power of like, his own
The
spots,
multiverse,
like
yeah.
oh man, so
Yeah.
beautiful. So yes, that's what I'm excited for. I want to see the fight. I want to see if it's going to involve all the Spider-Mans and Spider beings because that T-Rex Spider-Man still left an impression, man. And then
Dude,
Well, dude, I
and
don't
the cool
want
thing too is I think it ties into the MCU too because they had like Aaron, the Donald Glover Aaron, and then they had Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, and they were obviously in the MCU Spider-Man movie too, and stuff like that. So, and I think that
to,
they made
dude.
some comments and at some point where they saw similar things
Yeah. Well,
when
dude,
the
I don't
characters.
want to spoil it for you guys, but I think Japanese Spider-Man was in the movie, and Ramon, if you don't know, this Japanese Spider-Man has a mega sword, so like that's something that I'm also waiting for in the next movie. Like all these expectations, we're giving the next movie so many expectations that they might not deliver, but even if they don't give us those scenes, like it's gonna be an incredible, amazing, beautiful looking story.
Mhm.
So
I
yeah,
do
man,
remember clips. Yeah.
I might as well
I
buy my ticket right now if they gave me the chance.
yeah. I mean, hopefully it's sooner than later. I heard it's not like going to be like years, but it's like what months?
Next
Like
year.
maybe next year. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
already months away. He's considered 12 months. Yeah, but
Yeah.
no, yeah, absolutely. I'm excited, man. I don't know how they're gonna step it up, but assuming that it's just continuation and like an actual part 2 of this one, I would be super happy if they just keep doing what they did in this one and give us the same visual elements, the same craziness going on. If they bring Tom Holland somehow, like real life animation
Oh,
fighting,
they have
like,
to. Yeah.
like, can you imagine him actually being there, but like also fighting? Like that'd be crazy. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just excited for this movie. I can't wait for it to all 3 parts be out, and I'm just gonna own them and just watch them repeatedly.
Dude,
Yeah.
I could even see like an animated Tom Holland being voiced by Tom Holland.
Yeah. I mean, if Morbius shows up, I'm gonna walk out, man.
No, you won't. You're just gonna close your eyes
I
for like
won't,
3
man.
seconds. Like,
But no, man. Well, no, thanks guys for talking about Into the Spider-Verse with me. I think this movie again, it's great. I think it's gonna be an big Oscar contender. If I see this new Elemental movie that comes out with Pixar, I'll definitely rave to you guys about it. Like say like shit, never mind. Like that movie could have it because it kind of looks from graphic standpoint, like the things that they're doing, and it looks a little bit like, oh yeah, this is something that my eyes are gonna enjoy seeing it in the movie theater. So I'll let you guys know if I do go to the movie theaters to see it. But I mean, this has been Carlos.
hey, Ramon.
And Raul.
All right, man. I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a good night, everyone.